The morning sun rises slowly over the bustling streets of Aba. For decades, this city, once renowned as the commercial hub of southeastern Nigeria, bore the weight of crumbling roads, struggling infrastructure, and fading hope. Traders woke up every day to puddles of muddy water along major roads. Vehicles struggled through craters that used to be streets. Businesses survived, but barely. For many residents, it felt like progress had forgotten Abia State. But on May 29, 2023, something changed. A new governor stepped into office. His name was Alex Otti, and from the very first days of his administration, the message was very clear. Abia State would no longer remain the same. This is the story of how one administration began a visible transformation through roads, schools, hospitals, and ambitious reforms in the states many had almost given up on. Welcome to Update People TV. To understand the scale of the change, we must first understand the condition Abia was in before Alex Otti took office. For years, the state struggled with decaying infrastructure. Roads that once connected major commercial hubs had become almost impassable. Aba, a city famous for its industrial traders and manufacturing spirits, had slowly lost its shine. Investors avoided it. Transport costs increased. Local businesses suffered. But barely weeks after assuming office, Governor Alex Otti made infrastructure his first major battlefield. One of the most symbolic projects was the reconstruction of the Aba-Port Harcourt Road. This road was more than just asphalt and concrete. It was the economic artery of Aba. For years, trucks carrying goods from factories and markets struggled through potholes and flooded sections. Traders complained that what would be a short drive sometimes took hours. But under the new administration, construction equipment arrived. Bulldozers roared. Workers lined the roads. Asphalt began to replace crumbling surfaces. For residents, it felt like a long overdue revival had finally begun, and the Aba-Port Harcourt Road was only the beginning. Across the state, the government launched an aggressive road rehabilitation program. In Aba alone, more than a dozen roads were completed and commissioned in rapid succession. Roads like Ngwa Road, once considered one of the most important streets in the city, received major upgrades. Other roads that had been abandoned for years were suddenly under construction. For many citizens, the sight of road workers became a daily reminder that something different was happening in Aba. But Alex Otti's plan was not only about fixing roads, it was about restoring the economic engine of the state. One of the most ambitious urban projects under the administration was the transformation of the Eke-Ọha shopping center. For decades, Eke-Ọha had been a busy but aging marketplace. The vision now was to transform it into a modern commercial hub. Plans included high-speed internet infrastructure, improved electricity supply, CCTV surveillance systems, and even a small clinic for emergencies. The goal was very simple but powerful: to turn Aba into a modern commercial ecosystem where businesses could thrive again. But rebuilding a state requires more than commerce. It requires investing in people. And this is where education entered the story. Shortly after assuming office, Alex Otti announced a bold policy: free and compulsory education in public schools across Abia State. For thousands of families struggling with school fees, this decision brought immediate relief. But policies alone was not enough. Many public schools were in desperate condition. Classrooms had broken roofs, some had no furniture, learning environments were far from ideal. So the government began a statewide effort to renovate and build classrooms. Hundreds of new classrooms were constructed. Old ones were rehabilitated. The administration also recruited over 2,000 teachers to strengthen the education system. In communities across Abia, children began returning to classrooms that looked far better than they had in years. Parents who also worried about school fees could finally breathe a little easier. But perhaps one of the most emotional transformations occurred in the healthcare sector. Access to quality healthcare had long been a challenge for many communities in Abia State. In rural areas especially, people often had to travel long distances to receive medical attention. Recognizing this gap, the government launched a new healthcare revitalization initiative. In partnership with the federal government, a modern 100-bed hospital in Ugunabo local government area was commissioned as part of the efforts to improve medical access. Equally important was the rehabilitation of primary healthcare centers across the state. These centers serve as a first point of medical care for millions of Nigerians. By upgrading equipment and facilities in these centers, the government aimed to bring healthcare closer to ordinary citizens. For pregnant mothers, elderly residents, and young children, these improvements could mean the difference between life and death. But the transformation of Abia did not stop with traditional infrastructure. In a world increasingly driven by technology, Alex Otti's administration also turned its attention to digital development. One of the forward-looking projects launched was the Abia State Broadband and Digital Infrastructure Initiative. The project aims to install underground fiber optic ducts across major parts of the state. This would make it easier for internet providers to expand high-speed connectivity. In simple terms, it means businesses, startups, and digital entrepreneurs in Abia could soon enjoy faster and more reliable internet access. For a state known for its entrepreneurial spirit, digital connectivity could unlock entirely new economic opportunities. But perhaps the most ambitious initiative of all was something many people might not immediately notice. It wasn't a road, it wasn't a hospital, it wasn't a school, it was a long-term vision. The 25-year-old Abia State Development Plan. This plan was designed to guide the state's growth for the next quarter century. It outlines strategies for infrastructure, economic expansion, education, technology, and governance. Instead of short-term projects that disappear with each administration, the goal was to create a roadmap that future governments could follow. For many observers, this signaled a shift toward long-term planning, something often missing in many political systems. Now, more than 2 years in his administration, the story of Alex Otti in Abia is still unfolding. Some residents say they are already seeing visible changes in their communities. Roads that once frustrated drivers are gradually improving. Schools are becoming more accessible. Healthcare facilities are expanding. Digital infrastructure is beginning to take shape. Of course, challenges remain. Rebuilding a state takes time. Expectations are high, and the true impact of these projects will only become clear in the years ahead. But one thing is certain, the conversation about Abia State has started to change. Where people once spoke only of neglect and decline, many are now watching closely to see whether this transformation can continue. For the traders of Aba, for the students in newly renovated classrooms, for the patients receiving care in upgraded hospitals, and for millions of citizens hoping their state can finally fulfill its promise, the story of Abia's transformation is still very written. And history will ultimately decide how this chapter is remembered. But for now, the signs of change are visible, and the journey has just begun. This is Update People TV, where we bring you the stories shaping our people and our future. If you find the story very insightful, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who cares about the future of Nigeria, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories just like this one.